Hello everyone, I am Bruce. This is my third video and it will cover the amendments to the Constitution along with some Congress news. Therefore, 3 videos are now available to reference as I go forward with what is taking place in Congress. In addition to the Constitution, I also reviewed Cliff Notes for my material for today. So let's get started with the amendments. Congress proposed 12 amendments in September of 1789. 3/4 of the states approved 10 of them in December 1791, creating the Bill of Rights. Here are some key points of each of the 10, and I'll go over these quickly. Amendment 1 prohibits the establishment of a state religion and protects freedom of the press and speech and the right to assemble and petition the government. Amendment 2 guarantees the right to keep and bear arms in the context of a state militia. Amendment 3 prohibits the stationing of troops in homes without consent. Amendment 4 protects against unreasonable searches and seizures and requires probable cause for search warrants. Amendment 5 establishes a grand jury to bring indictments in capital or serious cases, protects against double jeopardy, in other words, a person cannot be tried twice for the same crime, and self-incrimination. In other words, individuals cannot be forced to testify against themselves, and guarantees due process and eminent domain, meaning compensation must be paid for private property taken for public use. Amendment 6 guarantees the right to a speedy trial by an impartial jury in criminal cases, to be informed about the charges, and to have representation by counsel. Amendment 7 provides for trial by jury in most civil cases. Amendment 8 prohibits excessive bail or fines and cruel and unusual punishments. Amendment 9 does not deny people any rights not specifically mentioned in the Constitution. And finally, Amendment 10 gives the states or the people powers not granted to Congress or denied to the states. Since the enactment of the Bill of Rights, the amendment process has been used sparingly. While numerous amendments have been proposed in Congress, only a handful have gone to the states for action. An additional 17 amendments to the Constitution have been ratified over the last 200 years. Now I'll go through the additional 17 amendments and then comment about some of them. Amendment number 11, a state cannot be sued by individuals in another state. Amendment 12, electors cast separate votes for president and vice president. Number 13, slavery abolished, which was in 1865. Number 14, due process of equal protection of the law given to all persons born or naturalized in the United States. 15. A right to vote cannot be denied because of race, color, or previous condition of slavery. 16. Federal income tax established. 17. Direct elections of senators. 18, which I'll cover in more detail, prohibition. That was in 1919. Number 19, women given the right to vote. I'll cover more on that as well. Number 20, dates of presidential inauguration and opening of Congress. 21, prohibition repealed. That was in 1933. 22, president is limited to 2 terms. 23, citizens of District of Columbia given the right to vote for president. 24, prohibits toll tax for voting. 25, secession of president or vice president, and I'll cover this in quite detail in a moment. 26, minimum voting age set to 18. And the final one, 27, limits on when pay raises for members of Congress can be enacted. Now let's take a look at Amendment 18, which was prohibition. It was repealed by the 21st Amendment but not until December 5th of 1933. Amendment 19, it took until 1920 to permit women to vote. Amendment 20, the terms of the President and Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of the Senators and Representatives end at noon on the 3rd day of January. Also under Amendment 20, and I find this one of note, if the President-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the Vice President-elect shall act as President-elect until a President shall be qualified. The amendment doesn't go into detail about what the word qualify means. Best I can tell, it is meeting the minimum requirements mentioned before about being president. If neither qualifies, then Congress decides. From what I read, next in line would be the Speaker of the House, followed by the Senate pro tem. As of today, January 6th, the House Speaker is Nancy Pelosi, and Senator Chuck Grassley is the Senate pro tem. Amendment 25. You may have heard a lot about this amendment in the year 2020. Before I get into that, the first part just basically states that the president can't perform his or her duties. The vice president will become acting president. As an example, if the president needed an operation where he or she was under anesthesia, then he or she would submit in writing, if possible, a letter to the Senate pro tem and the House Speaker stating powers would transfer to the vice president. This became an issue when President Reagan was shot and had to go into surgery. There was some controversy about what took place with then Secretary of State Haig. Now, what you may have heard in 2020, there was rumor of a discussion of trying to remove the president from office. This didn't go anywhere, but according to the 25th Amendment, this actually can take place. It would take 2/3 of both the Senate and the House for this to happen. If it did, then the vice president would assume the duties of the president. It wasn't until 1971 that the 26th Amendment gave the right to those who are 18 years of age the right to vote. This was an issue because of the Vietnam War going on and the age of a lot of soldiers fighting in it. I would also think this was also an issue prior to prior wars or conflicts. The last amendment, number 27, was part of the original Bill of Rights, but it wasn't until May 7th, 1992, that it was ratified. Nothing exciting about it, just that there are limits on how often Congress can vote for any pay raises. Now for some background. Many wonder, how does the Senate Majority Leader end up with so much power that he or she can decide what can be scheduled to be presented on the floor and what can't? Actually, this is a very gray area. No real set of rules are in place. Very interesting. Now, some news about Congress to close this video. First is the Senate runoff races in Georgia that took place yesterday, January 5th. Although not official yet, it appears at least one Senate seat will go to the Democrats, and the second one is still too close to call. Most likely a recount will be requested, no matter what. Second, what took place with the election of the president and vice president with Congress today, January 6th. At the start of this video, if one House of Representative member and one senator objected to a state's elector's certification of who should be president and vice president, both houses would adjourn to their floors and debate for approximately 2 hours and then vote if they should accept the state's electors' votes. This is what is going on right now, or was. It appears the issue that some Republican representatives and senators are contesting that certain states did not adhere to the Constitution by following the laws of the state legislators. It is of my opinion, by the end of the day, and not necessarily today, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris will be agreed upon as the next president and vice president at noon on January 20th of this year. In additional news, Congress is currently in lockdown due to protesters. Protesters have entered the Capitol, and I'm hearing some violence is taking place inside with guns drawn. Thousands are outside. This has to be a first. As for when Congress can complete this session, according to the Constitution, they have up to 5 days, and it doesn't necessarily have to be done at the Capitol. More news in my next video. I will also include any notes of interest from the Constitution or from other writings on this topic. A relative sent me a very nice book that will give me plenty of support material. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what I'm providing, please click the thumbs up and subscribe. Until then, please be safe.